Bhakti Big Swami Maharaj. Perhaps you know why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu descended in this world. Rupa Goswami did the Manobhishta of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Jaina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Sapadantikam. After that, our whole Guru Parampara came. In the last, Prabhupada sent Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. And after that, you are all inviting me here. Why? What is the purpose that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came or Guru Parampara came? And in the last, you invited me also. And so many from various countries and all over Australia you have invited. And why they have gathered here? I want to hear something from Braj Vallabh Prabhu.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. We can only offer back what we have heard to those whom we have heard it from. Otherwise, it's total impudence, impertinence for a junior to speak in front of one's seniors. But since we've been asked for our purification and our benefit, we should try and at least touch upon the greatness of the question that's been asked, why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come and why Srila Gurudev has come. In very simple terms, when Sri Sanatana Goswami Prabhu met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I think for the first time, he said, everyone is calling me a Pandit, a greatly learned personality. He said, yes, I'm such a great learned personality. Yes, I don't know who I am. So what kind of Pandit is that? That I don't even know who I am. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give the most elementary necessity of the jiva to the highest necessity of the jiva. And this great science of Krishna consciousness that our Srila Prabhupada introduced into the Western world is being developed up, and this was his desire. So according to the individual, they have a relationship with Sri Gurudev and they're inviting him here. But really, we don't know who we are, but Krishna knows who we are. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knows who we are, and his agent, the Guru, knows who we are. So he wants us to find out who we are. And in that knowing, we can unite with the Supreme Lord, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Shri Radha Govinda. And our supreme benefit can be attained. Why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to this world, Srila Gurudev has explained these things at great length, endlessly, from the time we first had the good fortune of meeting him. And that has been vividly described in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and you are all familiar with that. So we are transmigrating, throughout the cycle of birth and death, and this is not a joke. Janma Mrityu, Janma Vyadi, suffering, birth and death. So it is natural at our stage of development that we should want this to end. So this is the beginning stage. So sincerely, from this stage, we should develop up our Krishna consciousness attentively and surrender to the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's agent. So, can I pass it on to someone else who can describe deeply these things?
Thank you. Then Bandhu Prabhu will speak 2 minutes.
Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastabhadli, Srimati Gaura Govinda Samanita Namani. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Radhikaya Pratmani Shishim Bhaktivedanta Narayanati Namani. So, Braja Balababu very nicely described the meaning of why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and why Srila Gurudev has come. So, all of us use this word, Guru, sometimes very lightly. The meaning of guru means teacher. So we see all throughout the world, so many teachers are there. We accept so many gurus. We have gurus who teach us music. Our teachers at school are our gurus. Even for the wife, husband is guru. So if we look at guru in this sense, then we're somewhat lacking in our understanding. Actually, we're grossly lacking in our understanding. Actually, we have no understanding of what is guru. Actually, in most of the Shastras, guru is not referred to as teacher, not referred to as guru. He's referred to as Sri Guru. And this word Sri has, sorry, I can't turn around properly, but this word Sri has very deep significance in our Vaishnava association. This Sri is related to things that are auspicious, things that are very wonderful. This Sri also relates to Lakshmi Devi. She's Sri. But even deeper than that, even more transcendental, even more loving, this Sri means Sri Mati Radharani. So when we refer to Sri Guru Dev, we're actually referring to the deep, transcendental, wonderful, loving compassion that Srimati Radharani has for all conditioned souls. But even more so, the deep love that she has for Sri Krishna. So Sri Guru, he is the embodiment of Srimati Radharani's love for Krishna. So we may say, well, how is that? But actually Sri Guru, he loves so deeply all of the living entities in this vast creation, both spiritual and material, that he can't tolerate the jiva's separation from the service of Sri Krishna. This is actually our transcendental nature. Just like we see outside the rain, the water is making everything wet, because that's its nature. It can't help it. When it rains, everything will get wet. So in the same way, the intrinsic nature of the soul is to be engaged in the service of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. We can't help it. It's our nature. No matter how hard we try in this material world, like myself, to enjoy this wonderful creation that we have here, it's not natural for us. And the real nature, the real natural transcendental propensity in all living entities is drawn out from the living entity only by Sri Guru. So Sri Guru, Sri Guru Dev, is none other than Srimati Radharani's affection for Krishna and her love and deep compassion for all souls. So we should see Sri Guru in that way. Therefore, Srila Gurudev asked, oh, why have you invited me? I wonder if anybody here is asking the same question. Actually, I can imagine why wouldn't we invite Sri Guru in our presence? Because he has come to deliver the transcendental and deep message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is to absorb ourselves in the transcendental love of Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna. Jai Srila Gurudev.
Thank you. You should speak 2 words.
Namo Vishnu Badaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutalaya Srimati Go Govinda Swaminiti Namani. Namo Vishnu Badaya Radhikaya Priyamane Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Srila Naramarjana. I just remember my Guru Maharaj, Srila Govinda Maharaj, would always stress the necessity of sadhu sangha.
More louder, please.
My Guru Maharaj, Srila Narayana Maharaj, would always stress the necessity of sadhu sangha, because without the necessity of sadhu sangha, we are completely lost in this material world. So just by the gesture or the glance of sadhu, we can make so much advancement that we are completely unaware of. But they, by their mercy and by their association, we can go up. Otherwise, like I said, we're lost. So Guru Maharaj, really, that was his main preaching in ISKCON, the importance of sadhu sangha. And that's why we've invited you, Gurudev. Otherwise, we're hopeless and we're lost. Thank you.
Thank you. Lila Sukh Prabhu will speak 2 words.
Amagana Tamandasya Ganangana Salakaya Chaksunamana Tamyana Tasmai Sri Gurve Namaha. So Srila Gurudev's come to Murwilumba again. He'll be speaking here every night for 5 days, is that right? And I want to make sure that everybody comes and you tell all your friends to come and even tell your enemies to come. Because hearing what Gurudev's speaking is going to be benefit to everyone. Why do I say this? Because bhakti, Shuddha bhakti, pure bhakti, is not a thing of this material world. It is not a commodity that you can go to Kohl's and get off the shelves. Pure bhakti comes from the transcendental world. The vehicle for pure bhakti coming to this world, pure Vaishnava, a sadhu. A sadhu brings bhakti to this world. Bhagavad Gita tells us what is this world? 8 elements. Ether, fire, air, water, earth, 5 gross elements and 3 subtle elements. Mind, intelligence, and false ego. And Bhagavad Gita also tells us that these elements are all dancing. Prakriti, kriyamanini, gunai, kamani, svashaha, ahankar, vamuthatma, kartamitamanyate. But we are under the illusion that we are the doers. We are looking at this dancing, these 8 dancing energies, and thinking that we can control them. We can manipulate this energy to make things better for ourselves. But we can't. We can't control this material energy. Lord Brahmaji, our Adi Guru, he thought that he could change energy. What happened? Krishna bewildered him. And then he became humble. With folded arms, humbly he spoke to Krishna. Kavaham tamomaharaham kachiragni vabu. Samvesti tandagara saptavitastakaya, qued vigvidhavaganatanda puranachaya, vitadvaroma vivrashitate mahitvam. Lord Brahmaji, he said, what am I? Just a pot, like a 7 spans of my own on the length of my hand, filled with these elements. But what is Krishna? Krishna he's unlimited. Unlimited universes flow through the pores of his skin every moment, just like air flows through a screen. Lord Brahmaji, he became humble and he approached Krishna in the right mood. If we approach the sadhu, because sadhu is not like us, he's not Bahir Mukh, he's not watching these dancing dead energies. He is watching the dancing of Radha and Krishna within his heart. If we approach sadhu with a non-critical mood, not criticizing and not with a hypocritical mood, not pretending that we're something that we're not, in this mood, if we approach sadhu, then the reflection of his heart can come in our heart. Bhaktya sanjatya bhaktya. Srimad Bhagavatam tells us that bhakti comes from bhakti. And even in this lifetime, even today, tomorrow, very soon, in the association of a sadhu, if we approach him in the right mood, we can also get bhakti. And this is why we've invited Gurudev. Vanchakalpatubhyascha Krishnadev Bhakti Paramani Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha.
I heard that Radharani has served Krishna so much that Krishna can never repay that debt. So in an attempt to repay that debt, Krishna has come to this world in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to collect up maidservants to serve the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani. Really, Lord Chaitanya has come to find the lost servants of Radharani. So we can understand that Sri Guru is a Gora Priya Jana and Radha Priya Shaki. So Sri Guru has come for that same purpose, to find servants to render service to Radharani. So we're so fortunate if we can understand that if we're here in the presence of such a Radha Priya Shaki and a Gora Priya Jana, Guru's decided one day to make us maidservants of Radharani, and we're so lucky. Thank you, Gurudev.
Shamran, 2 words.
Om Gyanam Timirandasya Gyanam Janasalakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. In 2 very brief histories, I'd like to share just an atom of the reason why Srila Gurudev came. There was a quarrel between Visvamitra Muni and Vasistha Muni. Visvamitra Muni was saying that my severe austerities are the greatest and most powerful things in the universe. And Vasistha Muni was saying, my sadhu sangha is the greatest and most powerful. They couldn't resolve their quarrel, so they approached Anantadev, who's holding all the universes on his millions of hoods. When Anantadev heard this question, he said, this is a very heavy question, but I'm already engaged in a very heavy activity. I'm already holding the universes on my head. If somehow or other one of you could relieve that burden, then I could answer this other heavy question. So Visvamitra said, I'll give you all the results of my great severe austerities and penances. So Anantadev little bit took his head out of one of the universes, and all of a sudden all the seas started churning, the mountains started falling, everything started tilting. So he put his head right back. And then Vasistha Muni said, I'll give you 1 second of my sadhu sangha. And he pulled his head back, and the universe remained as it was. It's so powerful. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimati Devahuti said that even unknowingly associating with a great sadhu, just by taking prasadam with him, speaking with him, even apparently mundane talks, one's whole life can be changed. And if one does so knowingly, then the results are indescribable. Another very brief history is the history of Jana Sharma and Gop Kumar. Gop Kumar is the associate of Srimati Radhika and Krishna, a coward boyfriend just like Subal, a great associate like Mother Yasoda, never a conditioned soul. But he met with, by the order of Radhika, he met with Jana Sharma, a conditioned soul, really not just an example of a conditioned soul, but a conditioned soul who hadn't done really any sadhana. He had gotten Gayatri mantra from Parvati, but with no guidance, no rules and regulations, no deep meanings. So Gop Kumar was teaching him all the tattvas, all the way up to Braj Prem tattva. And Jana Sharma was knowing the tattvas now, surrendering with faith to his guru, but no feelings, no tears. So Gop Kumar put his hand on his head, and he said, now you will get all realization. So then Jana Sharma closed his eyes, opened his eyes, he found himself in Goloka Vrindavan, and running to Krishna and Krishna running to him, both of them embracing and falling to the ground, weeping and fainting. So Gurudev said, Sri Sanatana Goswami gave this verse, Mahat Sangha Mahatmyam Etaivat Paramadbhutam. The effects of sadhu sangha are super astounding and miraculous. Now, Gurudev gave this lecture in Badger where there's a river. He said, if you have any doubts in the great power of sadhu sangha, then take all your doubts and throw them all in the river. Don't have any doubts, don't be hopeless, take that shelter, and all miraculous effects are achieved, and that's why Srila Gurudev came.
Thank you. I'm very happy to come here, and so my daughters, sons, and all, my god brothers also. When I came to Malaysia, only for one day I spoke there, but so many devotees came and inspired. I thought that this is big gathering, but when I came, I saw more big gathering than Malaysia also, and so many devotees. I think this lecture hall is of who? This
hall belongs to the town.
From town you have collected for classes. I thought that he has bought
Next week.
next.
Week he'll buy.
So each and every person should have a goal of life. Without goal and aim of life, we are all like animals. Not animals only, foolish, like donkeys. Yeah. I'm not telling, but Shastra is telling like, dharme nahina pasubhi samana. Like donkeys. Self-killer even. So what is the aim and object? I told in Malaysia, Jasya Deve Parabhakti. What is meaning of Parabhakti? To is endless Sima. What? Prema Bhakti. Go on more. Dasya Bhakti. Oh, Narayana Mahaprabhu told, oh, go on. Is it okay? Then Sakhya. Oh, Iho Uttam. Aage kaha. And then Varsal. Oh, very good, very, very good. But I want to hear something more. Oh, Gopi Prem. Oh, very good. But something more? Can you tell? Then he told what? Oh, Radha Prem, highest. Something more? Oh, in this world there are no who can ask more than this. But there is something. Sambandhaganuga Bhakti and Kamatmika Bhakti. Nanda Baba, Jasoda Maya and all are Sambandhanuga. Sambandhatmika, not Sambandha. Sambandhatmika. But gopis are Kamatmika. Kamatmika Bhakti also of two kinds. No? Kamatmika, Sambhogatmika and Tattat Bhavechita. That is Ullasarati. Oh, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came only to give this. Not Ujjvala Rasa. It is in Madanakya Bhav in Radhika Malli. So he wanted to test it himself. Because in Krishna pastime he could not realize all these things, not test it. And one thing, he could not give the process of this kamatmika and tat bhavechha tat atmika. He could not give the process. So, Rupa Goswami told, Anarpiticharing chirat karunaya vatirnah kalau samarpayitum unnato jalarsang swabhakti sriyam. What is the meaning? Samarpayutum karunaya, out of mercy. He wanted to give what? Unnata ujjala rasang swabhakti, not uttal ujjal ras. It is in Srimati Radhika only. He wanted to test it. But samarpayitum karunaya unnata ujjala rasang swabhakti, the beauty of unnat ujjal, not unnat ujjal. There is difference between unnat ujjal ras and the beauty. Like a creeper, without leaves, manjaris, or flowers, no beauty. So Radhika may be the creeper, but beauty where? Leaves, flowers, and especially in Manjari. Lalita and Vishakha are more superior than Rup Manjari and others. But in some case, Lalita will have to go and take permission. May I come? May I come in, sir? She will have to wait. Order. Directly they cannot go to Radha and Krishna. But Rup Manjari, Rati Manjari, always serving if they are naked even. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came mercifully to give this Manjari mood, Ullasa Rati. That this should be the aim and object, highest, of any jeev in this world. But rare. But rare. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself came with his associates like Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, like others. What? To give this Raganuga Marga. Raganuga Marga. What is the pair of Chaitanya? Rag Marga Bhakti Karite Pracharam. And fourth, first Adi Lila, fourth chapter. He has not come only to give Harinam, to preach Harinam, not only this. Oh, that can be done by Advaitacharya and others. But a special this thing, Raganuga Marga, and that highest thing I told, the mood of Rupa Goswami, anyone cannot give without Krishna. And the associates of Radhika. So, our Guru Parampara Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself Krishna in the form of Radha Bhav Dut Sabalitam. Oh, he came only to give this. Very rare thing. Not only Vaidhi Bhakti, but the Bhakti has been preached by so many acharyas. So many. Ramanuj, Madhvacharya, Vishnu Swami, Nimbaditacharya. Even Marjada Bhakti has been preached by Ram and given. Nrsimhadev gave something. Raudra Ras he gave. And so many gave. Even Vyas, being a Narayan Tattva, he never knew this. By the mercy, a special mercy of Narada Goswami, he knew these things. And he advised him to give these sweet pastimes of Krishna. You have told about dharma, artha, kam, moksha. In other Puran, you have told about Krishna. But Krishna is covered with dharma, artha, kam, moksha. Now you should do. You have not told that Krishna was bonded by his mother Jashoda, even. Now none has bride. You have not written that Krishna holding his hands, keeping his peacock feather and float on the lotus feet of Radhika. Na pare ham nirvadya sanjaya. I cannot repay you. Even in the eye of demigods, never. So these are things. You are very fortunate to hear all these things. How to have these things? Begin from beginning. Shramanam, Kirtanam, Vaidhi Bhakti. Especially Adav Saddha, Tata Sadhu Sangha, Anartha Nivritti, Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti. Then Suddha Sattva. Suddha Sattva in this world, very rare. Very. Suddha Sattva, Visheshatma, Prem Sujjan Susamya Bhav, Ruchibhi Chittam Asrinya Kritosau Bhavu. First avhas of prem in this world. And after nothing to practice in this world. Only bhav bhakti. For these things, Swamiji came, Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. But what happened? He saw that there are so many jungles, no fertile land. He began to cut the jungles of Maya, Vat, Sakhi, Veki and all other things. Varnashram, Dharma, so many things. He wanted to establish first Daiva Varnashram. Be situated in Daiva Varnashram. And then practice all these. But you should know always. Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastri. Without Sadhu Sangha, you cannot advance. As she gave 2-3 examples. So we have come for these things and you are invited for these things. Always keep in your mind, Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitang Jaina Bhutale. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knew the mode of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He knew the heart of Chaitanya and he established. We should all, top to bottom, everyone should try to know your Gurudev heart and try to establish it. Don't quarrel. It may be so many things, problems, but try to forget all kinds of troubles. What your Gurudev wants, what your Guru Parampara wants, what Krishna and Mahaprabhu and his associates want. I told so many times that you should have a preaching center. Why? To give proper respect to seniors. If you are quarreling and not giving proper respects to seniors, you cannot advance an inch even. So, to train them, to give proper respect, this is necessary. A preaching center also, where we should forget all our quarrels and be in one opinion that how we can fulfill the desire of our Guru Parampara, and how we can achieve this rare, what I told you, Adav Saddha, and in the last Suddha Sattva, Visheshatma, and in the last Prem. And then you will come Sneh, Maan, Pranay, Rag, Anurag, Bhav, Mahabhav, and so many things. Don't waste your time, a moment even. Never. So I have come to remind you all these things. But seniors also give proper honor to junior also, and love and affection, and help them. It has been told, Ishware Prem, Prema, Kripa Upeksha. This we should follow. Prem to Krishna only, Radha Krishna, Mahaprabhu. And 3 kinds of exchanges between Vaishnava. Senior Vaishnava should be honored and given respect. Equal, Dandat Pranam and all these things. And juniors, Sadhu Sangha, you will have to give. And those who have no respect for Krishna or anything, Upeksha. But those who are not in line, but innocent, we should try to help them, as we are doing. Then our mission will be successful. Gaur Premanande. One thing, one request, that you all, Braj Vallabh Prabhu, always try to, I give respect to Braj Vallabh Prabhu, myself. He is very much qualified. So always try to give him respect, like Shiksha Guru. You can learn so many things. Don't see any loophole to anyone. Otherwise loophole will come. And thus, in one opinion, you should make a preaching center very soon. By the grace of Lord, you have collected one place and very good situation. Very soon, you should make there, giving up all quarrels and difference of opinion. So very soon, in coming year, I may stay there in the good lecture hall, and I will see that all sannyasi, brahmachari, lady devotees are all very high class of Gaur Premanande. Because it is too late for me. Krishna